Now we're going to give it up. Big round of applause for Sharon Spell.
We're all good. I'm also tall-ish. Hi. So I feel like I speak for most people in the room. You probably also have felt this. Since I was a little kid, I always felt like at one point I would have a museum named after me. It doesn't have to be posthumously. It can be while I'm alive. It's fine. My mom and dad had 4 perfect children and saved a lot of our stuff because my mom felt that one of her kids was going to be famous. And I thought, well, I'm the baby, so I'm the saving grace of the family. It's all on my shoulders. I'll do it. But I've saved a lot of stuff also. And you can probably tell I'm a grown woman and have been alive for several years. And I've amassed quite a collection for my museum at some point. You're all invited. But also being a grown woman, I've made choices that have led to deaccessioning pieces of the collection. And what do you do when it comes time to purge? One such time was at the end of my divorce. That meant I had to move out of the house. And I was already living in New York, and ex-husband was living where we lived together in Pittsburgh. And I made several trips back to Pittsburgh to deal with the rest of the stuff in the house. And this last trip was the final trip. And some nice friends in New York had lent me their car to make this trip. And it was a Mini Cooper, which was the perfect car because I could only fit in it what would fit. And it was the exact same size of my Astoria apartment. So I had to make some decisions. And the divorce was amicable enough. He made sure to be gone from the house from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. when he would be at work. When we were married, he would go to work at 10, come home at 4:30. But this week, he was time on task. I spent the night at friends' houses and would come over at 9 a.m. And the first morning I went over there, I saw that he had very methodically taken the rest of my stuff, put it in plastic bins in the very back of the basement. And so I walked downstairs past the cats who were ignoring me. I get it, I've been gone. And I walked down and I just see this row, several rows and columns of plastic bins of my stuff. Now, I have a museum background also. I've worked at the Warhol Museum and the Frick Museum. And Andy Warhol had his time capsules. He would basically just shove everything from his desk into a box and see you later. That's what I'm looking at of my stuff. And I'm thinking, what is in there? I've lived away from my ex-husband now at least a year and a half. I don't miss anything in these boxes. And I'm thinking, I'm Southern, it's probably thank you notes. But who are they from? And at this point, do I know them anymore? And I think I got this Mini Cooper to fill or not fill, and I have to make some decisions. And he's also moved some pieces of furniture to the basement, and so I start there and open a drawer, and the very first thing I pull out is a card with a stamp still on it, and it's addressed to Mr. and Mrs., and it's from his grandmother in Scotland, and she's wishing us a happy first anniversary. And I have to sit down because it floors me. I was not expecting this. We had sent many cards back and forth over the years, and I loved her. When he and I were dating and I got to meet her, she was part of what sealed the deal for the marriage because I wanted to be with her and hang out with her. This woman had wall-to-wall red carpet. I mean, she knew style. That was a good match. And so I sat there and looked at this card addressed to Mr. and Mrs., and I just lost it and thought, how do I file this? How do I keep it? It's addressed to people who don't exist anymore. This union is no longer. And it's probably 9:05 at this point, and I think, well, who are my resources? And I think, well, my sister is awake. And so I call her, and she tells me a very good bit of information that it's okay to throw stuff out. And see, in my museum background, I hadn't really considered just like throwing it out. I thought I need to send this to another collection, but like, ex-husband did not want this. He had letters actually addressed to him from his grandmother that meant something to him, and I laughed when she mentioned it, and it was actually freeing to think I can put this in the recycling and walk away. And I made that decision knowing like, well, I'm still in the house and it's still in the house, so I can still go back for it. But then other things got easier to throw out, and even like love letters that he and I wrote to each other went in the file also, the circular file that was going out to the garbage in the back. And every little bit got easier, and I realized like you take the stuff with you in your heart and your mind and your memories, and that piece of paper was going to torture me. If I were still touching that piece of paper at this point in my life, that's a torture thing. That's not a joyful living thing. I have those happy memories of his grandmother. I have those. Those will never go away. So it got easier to deal with the stuff and things, and even when I saw also in the next to the dryer, also in the basement, there was a pair of his new girlfriend's underwear that had fallen to the side, and I threw that out also. So thank you.